What is going on, everybody? My name is Jacob. I've been a diehard Pistons fan since 2003, and I'm eager to see this team getting back to playing winning basketball. In today's video, we are going to go over 5 players that the Pistons could potentially trade for and take on in a salary dump type of trade. Now, we're going to go in order of the players that I would least like to see the Pistons trade for to the end of the video, who is going to be the player that I most want to see the Pistons trade for. Considering that Langdon did mention in the press conference that the plan is to take on bad contracts in order to gain assets, I believe that's what they're going to do, especially considering that we're now 2 days into free agency and still have $26 million of cap space. So I think one of these players very likely could be a Detroit Piston by the end of the summer. Coming in at number 5 is Michigan's own Draymond Green. Now, Draymond Green is going to be a very controversial one. I don't think you'll talk to too many Pistons fans who say, I don't really care. Most Pistons fans are either going to say, absolutely, go get Draymond. He'd be great for this team. Just bring a type of energy that they don't have, this and that. And the other group of people are going to say, no way, not ever, never, never, never. I'm somewhere in the middle. I guess that's kind of contradictory to what I said about, as far as that goes. But if I did have to lean one way, it would be no. If you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I probably would have been down for it. But considering that Draymond is 34 years old and still has 3 years left on his deal, the more I think about it, no. That's why he's on the bottom of this list. I mean, the idea of Draymond being on the Pistons is like, it was cool, but when you really think about paying him $25 million at 37 years old and considering how things have gone the past couple of years, I think I'm out on Draymond Green being a Piston at this point, unfortunately. At number 4, we have Zach LaVine. Now, Zach LaVine has been in trade rumors to the Pistons since months now. We've been hearing about Zach LaVine to the Pistons for a long time, of course. That kind of started last year, and then he did go down with an injury, so the conversations kind of stalled out. I was actually at the 3rd game of the Pistons season last year, the home opener, where Zach LaVine scored 50 against us, and the Pistons still won. It was definitely the best game of the season. I don't know how I feel about this, to be honest with you guys. Zach LaVine is 29 years old, and he has 3 years left on his deal at $45 million, which just seems like so much for a guy of Zach LaVine's caliber. Not that Zach LaVine's a bad player. He's a good offensive threat that can score at all 3 levels at a high level, but that's just too much. $45 million is like Giannis type of money or Steph type of money or Jokic type of money. And when you're giving a guy like Zach LaVine that type of money, I feel like it's just going to be a hard route forward. Of course, they've talked about now that they'd have to add assets just to get off Zach LaVine's contract. So maybe if the package that came back with him was actually crazy and we had to give up nothing and can somehow make this work on our books, I don't know. A Cade and Zach LaVine backcourt would score a lot of points, but that's really the reason why he's not very high on this list, is just because that is so much money. Now, number 3 is a guy who also was in a lot of rumors to the Pistons, but not last season, the season before when he was a free agent. A lot of Pistons fans really wanted to go after Cam Johnson, and the Brooklyn Nets are in a completely different situation now than what they were 12 months ago. 12 months ago, the Nets seemed like they wanted to try and put together some pieces to actually be somewhat competitive, but after losing Mikal Bridges, it sounds like they're just going to completely blow it up and go young. At least that's what I think. They did re-sign Nick Claxton, but I guess he isn't that old. Cam is 28 years old. He has 3 years left on his deal at $23 million, which isn't like a super bad contract that I think they'd be looking to attach assets to get off of. But I do think that they would be willing to move him, just considering that if they're going for a 3-year rebuild here, they probably want to try and gather assets during that point in time and just get off of his money that would be paying him $23 million at 32 years old, which I don't even think is bad, to be honest with you, especially with the cap raising. But maybe he's just not a part of their plans anymore. Maybe it would be less of a salary dump and more of a direction shift for the Nets, and maybe they'd want a couple cool things back. But overall, I think we could get him cheaper now than we could have a year ago, and I think he would help. You can't get enough of guys like Cam Johnson on your team in this league. He did regress numbers-wise a little bit last year, but just his overall archetype as a player is one of those types of players that I feel like you can't have enough of those swing forwards that can shoot the ball and play some defense. So I would definitely be somewhat for that. Now, coming in here is another player somewhat similar to Cam, but he is a little bit younger, and that is DeAndre Hunter. So DeAndre Hunter is 26 years old, $23 million a year for 3 more years. I really can't tell what the Hawks are doing right now. Of course, they traded DeJounte and starting to build a little bit younger, it seems, bringing on, of course, Riza in the draft. So I really don't know what they're trying to do, but at 3 more years on DeAndre Hunter's contract, they might just be looking to get off of that. For $23 million a year, that would definitely fit into our cap space. And again, he's another guy who's just a solid wing that I really don't think you can get enough of. Bringing back Fontecchio and signing Tobias Harris really doesn't make me want any of these 3-and-D wings any less than I did before, because like I said, I just don't think you can have enough of those players. If you have 3 of those types of wings on your team, you can play them all at the same time, to be honest with you. I'm sure you can slot Hunter in at the 2 if you really had to, and it really would be just fine. So I would definitely be for taking Hunter off the Hawks' hands if they're looking to kind of bail out on his contract and get off of that money. Of course, he's only 26 years old, so I think by the time that thing wraps up at 29, 30, it'd be totally fine paying him that. So definitely cool with that. And at number 1 is Andrew Wiggins. Now, Andrew Wiggins is 29 years old. He has 3 years left on his deal, with the last year being a player option at $28 million. So the Warriors have had a crazy cap situation over the past couple of years. They were paying a crazy bill last year to afford the team that they had, and that team didn't even get them into the playoffs. So they might be looking to unload on Andrew Wiggins. I think that there's definitely a trade in the works anyways for Andrew Wiggins, considering that the Warriors had advised Team Canada to not let him play in the Olympics because they are trying to work on a trade to get off of his money. If Andrew Wiggins wants to come to Detroit, I'm all for it. I know there's a big difference in the I'm in the NBA Finals, I'm going to grab 17 rebounds and secure this championship, Andrew Wiggins, versus the I'm halfway in this game and halfway out of this game, Andrew Wiggins, that you sometimes get. But the best version of Andrew Wiggins helps this team so much. Defensively, he can guard the other team's best player. Offensively, he can cut, he can shoot a bit. He can do a lot of things on the basketball floor, and the best version of Andrew Wiggins is a very good basketball player. Now, he's not ever going to be that baby Jordan, baby LeBron that we were talking about back when we were in high school. But either way, I think Andrew Wiggins is still a fantastic player when he's on his A game, and I really think that he raises the floor and the ceiling for this roster. If we get him on the team, I feel really good about him on the wing. Him starting next to Cade, I feel like that dynamic would work really well. Overall, if the Warriors are looking to get off of Andrew Wiggins' money, I am more than happy to take that contract off their hands and just hope that Andrew Wiggins comes through and plays the best basketball that he can, because the best basketball that Andrew Wiggins can play is a very good basketball player. Let me know who you guys think are likely to maybe come through. I don't really know, to be honest with you. It's really hard to get a read on things right now. There's been so many conflicting rumors about potential players that we could trade for, this and that. So it's all up in the air right now. Let me know if there's maybe some trade targets that weren't on this list that you would like to see, and we'll talk soon.